only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome to Logic Plumbing. Now, before we get started on this tutorial, number one, I would expect you to have an understanding of how logic works, mainly these 6 gates that are going to be in this module here, and or X or NAND, NOR, and X NOR. Now, it's very important that you have this kind of in your head. If you have no idea what logic is and how to actually do it, I would advise taking a step back and going back and watching some of the easier tutorials. For example, logic itself, like logic as the module here, is a good one. I will leave a link to that in the description, just so you can go back and watch that, just to get an understanding of how logic works, because knowing how logic works in this entire mod is going to be very important, as this entire mod is completely based off of the concept of logic. So we're going to be using these 6 gates, and the way that this works here is, on this module is a 6x6 grid of logic gates, and each tile takes inputs from the current state of the tiles, from the or lights above to left, and performs the operation on the tile to evaluate its state. To solve this module, each tile must evaluate to true if the tile is yellow, and false if the tile is white. We've got a lot of trues that we need to have happen here, and we have a couple whites that need to have happen here as well. So, you may swap the gates on 2 tiles by pressing them in a sequence. So in this case, we can swap this NOR and AND right here. As you can see, we can do that perfectly fine. And a green tile indicates that the current state matches the desired state, not whether the current state is true or false. Very important to note down. So in this case, where we have NAND up in the top left here, what's going to happen here is that if we take a look, the lights are showing us true and true for the row and column. And in this case, if we happen to have both true and true, that's going to return as false, which in this case, if we take a look here, we want the yellow state to be true, so we want it to return true. However, NAND returns as false, and as you can see here, it returns as red, and a bunch of other stuff will return as green. So the way that I like to do this is I like to go row by row, because what's going to be actually happening here is a little bit interesting. So when you happen to figure out the correct state for a specific tile, for example, what happens then is you're not going to be using the lights instead anymore. What's going to happen here is that you're going to end up using the status of the tile itself as the true or false state. So in this case, when we get into later examples, what we're going to want to take a look at here, for example, in Charlie 4, what we need to do is we need this one to return false. It's white. But what we're not going to be looking at is we're not going to be looking at the LEDs for the 4th row and the 3rd column, in this case, off and on. We're going to actually be looking at the positions that are the closest to it, in this case, up and left. So in this case, we're going to be evaluating a true and true statement, and we need this to return false. So what we can do potentially is we can then throw in like a NAND, for example. True and true in NAND, as we just mentioned beforehand, will return true. And as you can see, that is actually not right. It's probably because I misevaluated one of these things. Maybe some more here. Yeah, there we go. So it's very important to make sure that you have all your desired states in the correct positions, because what's going to be happening here is that these will be later on. The up and left positions will be in placement of the LEDs on the far left and the far up. So that's what makes this thing so interesting. And our goal here, obviously, is to get down to the bottom right, where this little wire is going up to the status light. We're going to turn that green, and we'll be good to go. Now, the nice thing is about this module is that there's no way to strike it. So this module cannot strike you, and we're going to hold the button at the top left to solve the module when all tiles evaluate to the right state. So that's going to be where we're going to do things right. Note to self: use this status light a lot. It's gonna help you a lot. It's going to be helping you a lot. Use the button definitely to make life a little bit easier here. And let's get right into the module. Let's start doing some logic here. And this is going to be where I stress it's very important that you kind of know how to do logic in the top of your head for this mod, because there's just a lot going on. And this actually is a really nice solo for you. It's really, really, really going to be good here. So let's take a look here. So we have a true, and we need to return this as true. We can do, for example, a AND here. So that works. As you can see, it turns green. And now things get complicated here. So remember, when you're pressing the button, what it considers is it actually considers the state that it is currently in, and the other positions, as you can see if we looked beforehand. In this case, we had NAND here. This would return as false, and the rest of these were returning as true. It's important to note that this considers the states of everything at the current moment when you press the button. So it's not considering whether it is the correct position or not. It's just simply considering whether it is true or false. and then that can affect some positions. So it's very important that you do this in in reading order, just to make sure that you can get things right. But let's go back to AND here. As you can see, it affects the states of these other 3 LEDs below it, so just keep that in mind. Okay, now for this next one. If we take a look here, we need to make this a true and a true because the LEDs here are yellow and yellow, yellow and on in this case, and this is the intersection right here. So we can make this a AND, for example, and that'll work. Perfect. But this does affect some other things here. So let's take a look at this next one. So for delta 1, it's going to be looking at true and false because we have the LED off here, and we have this Charlie 1 here is returning as true. Let's figure out what we can do here. So we need to return this as false. Let's make it a XNOR, because both XNOR needs to return as both of them are being the exact same, and just like that, we've already solved this row. Perfect. So now, with this next row, we need to have a true and a true return false, because we have the true from alpha 1, and we have the true from the leftmost LED over here. So, let's take a look. Perhaps what we can do here is we can do a NAND. We have a lot of those on this mod here. We can use that to our advantage, and just like that, that's good to go. And this also takes care of this column, but we obviously can change some things up later, so it's going to be very important that we pay attention to that. So next up we have, considering for Bravo 2, we're going to be taking a look at Bravo 1 and Alpha 2. In this case, this is a true-false. We need to consider this to be true. So we want to do this with XOR. XOR is exactly 1 is true. Now with Charlie 3 here, with Charlie 2 rather, we have a true and a true here, and we want this to be false. So we need to actually make this into something that doesn't accept true and true. We can do perhaps another NAND. We have a lot of these guys that we want to use up, so this will be helpful for us. Now this affects the rest of these guys over here because of the fact that this changes the state, whether it be true or false. So we're going to have to change things up a little bit. So false, false, we need this to be true. We can put a NOR in here, and that's going to be actually really good for us. Okay, and that takes care of the first 2 rows. Next up, let's take a look at Charlie 3 here. Charlie 3, we have a false, false, so we need to make this a true. So false, false with true, we can do a NOR for this one, for example. Okay, now we need to change Delta 3. Delta 3 has a true, true, we need this to return true. We can do an AND here. Okay, that's good so far. So now let's go down to the 4th row. We have a true, true here for Delta 4, so we've got Bravo 4 and Charlie 3, both of them returning true in this case. And we need to return this to false. Let's take a look here. So maybe we can do another NAND. That might work. Okay, let's take a look at Echo 4 here. Echo 4 is a false. We need this to return false. We have a true, true here. So let's do a, let's do an XOR perhaps. Let's see if that does anything for us. That should do it good. Okay, we need to now look at Foxtrot 4. So Foxtrot 4 has a false true, and we need this to return true. We can perhaps do an OR here. Okay, looking good so far. We're very close to being done with this, but obviously there is likely going to have to be some swaps that we're going to have to do here. It's this last little bit that might be a little bit tricky, so let's just bear this in mind. So let's take a look here. So we've got true, true. We need this to return false at Bravo 5. So we can change this to a true, true. We can change this to a NAND. That'll work. Okay. And already we're very close to being done with this. So we need this to return false, but we have an AND here. So let's see what else we can do, perhaps. We can do this NAND right here. Okay. Now this is going to cause problems for us. So because of the fact that we have a true, false, and this needs to return as true, and the only 2 symbols that we have left are going to be these 2. These 2 are already not going to work for us. We can potentially swap this this OR here, but that's not going to help us right now. This is where things get a little bit interesting, and this might be where we have to essentially swap some symbols out from previous examples. So we need to swap some symbols that actually won't change the answer itself later on. So in this case, we can potentially swap this out for a we can swap this XOR out for one of the NANDs up top here. So we had a NAND here that needed to be returned as true. And in this example, what we can do here is we can see it needed to be a false true. The XOR would work in that case, and that wouldn't affect anything. So we can swap these out. Okay, now this does affect some other examples here. Perhaps let's bring this guy up to here because it has a false-false case. Okay, so all we simply need to do is we need to now fix this one cell. So let's see what else we can do for this, and let's see if we can find some place where we can swap these. So for an AND, we need to find a spot that would work for both of them. And we can actually do it right here. Perfect. So what we can do here is we can swap this OR and the AND. The OR would obviously work there, for example. In this case, it would be the true returns is true. But however, it's going to be better down here. And works up here as well because both of them return true. That's the only case that actually works for and. True and true returns as true. So let's swap these two. This should be all we need, I believe, actually. Or perhaps one more because we need to fix this and down here. But that's very good for us. So now we need to fix this one down here. We need to find a condition where it returns true as false, which actually shouldn't be too hard to find. And already I can actually see a solution to this. Potentially. No, I can't. Hold on. Let's think. If we could get a NAND here, that would be quite nice, but already all the NANDs are basically trues, so a NOR would also be nice, but that's a very specific condition to find. Let's think. And it's a little bit of looking around, especially on these later stages of the mod here, but overall it's not too bad. No, that doesn't work. So yeah, so the reason why this is returning as false is because we need this white square to be false. However, in the case of what's being applied here, in this case, Echo 6 and Foxtrot 5, both of these are returning as true. But that's going to mess up the AND would return as true. We need it to return as false. So let's take a look here. XOR would be nice. XOR would be very nice, but I don't know. I don't see much with the XORs, which is very interesting. Yeah, because this is gonna mess up a couple things. Shoot. Yeah, this certainly is a tricky example. And honestly, it's just a lot of looking around. Here, let's get rid of the AND, because that's a very restrictive AND. Let's just swap it out for the OR. That's going to help us a little bit better, definitely speaking. Oh, and what we can do now is we can simply swap out one of the XORs and place it in as an OR. So in this case, what we can do here is we can swap out Bravo 2, for example. We need this to return as true. False true in an OR gate would return as true. That's perfect. And if we place the XOR down here, true in an XOR gate would return as false. Let's hit that. Now, you have to submit this by holding the actual button and checking the actual submission. This should work. And just like that is a solved module. It's a fairly simple process, but it definitely takes a while and it is a little bit of thinking. The way that I like to do this is I'd like to do it in reading order. It definitely saves a lot of time. It makes my life a little bit easier. And obviously, as you can see in examples, you can obviously swap out logic gates that would work as in the exact same position as another logic gate, just to use in some special cases. So that's going to be where that's going to be a bit useful. Let's take a look at one more example and let's see what we can do here. Yeah, that one was not too bad. It honestly is going to be like the last two or one row that are going to be a bit weird, because there obviously will likely be some swaps that'll come into play. So just bear that in mind. Okay, false true to start us off. We need this to be true. That can be an XOR. Let's put that there. Okay. False. We need a yeah, that would work for NOR. So we need a true to return as false. We can do a NAND here. Okay, that works. We need a true to return as true. We can do AND here. Okay. We need a false true to return as true. We can do XOR here. That works. Okay. We need a false true to return as false. We can do X and NOR. False true to return as a true. That can be just a simple OR. Okay, that's the first two rows taken care of. We need a false to return as false. The NOR cannot work there. We can do NAND. No, we cannot do NAND. We can do a XOR. That works. Okay, let's do a true false that returns as true. We can do XOR. Okay, true true returns true. We can do AND. Okay, that's the first three rows taken care of. We have a true false, returning as true, XOR. Okay, and we have a true false returning as false. We can do NOR. A false true returning as false. XNOR. Works. A false true returning as true, or a true false returning as false, NOR. Okay. False false returning as true. Okay, this is where things get a little bit interesting. We can do the NOR here. This definitely will affect some things. Okay. So we have a true true returns as true. We can do and with the ands here. Okay. True false returns as true. That can just be a NAND. Okay. False true returns as false. Or aha, here we go. And now those last two positions that we just had beforehand, in this case, if we swap here. So in this case, we needed to do a true true returns as false, and we need to do a false true returns as false. False true for and would return as false, and then true true for XOR would return as false. That's exactly what we needed to do. Oh, that actually affects some things. That's right. That does indeed affect some things. So we've got a false true returns returning as false. That can do what? If we can get a NOR or something that like from earlier, that would be nice. Let's start taking a look at around. The NAND and the XOR would work here. We just simply need to swap something that would actually work. That would actually return false in this case for exactly one true. Okay, let's take a look around. Oh, we can just do simply AND up here. That should work. Because if we take a look, the XOR doesn't work here because it returns as true. Exactly one of them is true, so that it returns as true. However, with AND, what we can simply do is we can simply put this over here. And it needs to have both of them true. Both of them are not true, that would return as false. And that's exactly what we need. Same thing with XOR, they're both false. Exactly one needs to be true for XOR, so that takes care of two birds with one stone. And just like that is a solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.